We've tackled Thundercats, and we've pulled together a fleet of Silverhawks and talked about them. Now it's time to talk about their oft-forgotten cousin or sibling, Riplet, a similar thing? I don't know what you call that. Anyway, it's TigerSharks. First, if you remember this show, then you're a true 80s hero, and we at SYFY applaud you. But not really, because that would kind of mess up the audio, but you know, you get it, we're applauding you. A lot of you requested this show in the comments of our other videos, so actually you're all heroes. Also, thank you for making us realize that we didn't hallucinate this show. TigerSharks premiered in 1987 and was produced by Rankin Productions. Remember this bumper? They're the same studio that produced, yes, Thundercats and Silverhawks, which is why the animation looks so similar, and also why the concept is so similar. Thundercats were feline-human hybrids, land. Silverhawks were bird-human hybrids, air. So naturally, fish were next, because nothing really lives in fire. Now, if you don't remember TigerSharks, that's okay. Perhaps you remember the comic strip, which was the name of the animated series in which the TigerSharks first appeared. And in case you wanted to spell comic strip and you didn't know how for some reason, or you thought maybe it was tricky and not phonetic, then boy oh boy have we got a treat for you.
Coming up on the
The comic strip was an animated series made up of 4 different cartoons: Mini Monsters, Street Frogs, Karate Cat, and TigerSharks. In each episode, 2 installments of the 4 cartoons were shown. TigerSharks was always one of them, closing out every episode. Let's get into the comic strip for a minute though. First, there was the Mini Monsters, which also loved spelling out its title.
Give me an M! Give me an I! Give me an N! Give me an I! Give me an M-O-N-S-T-E-R-S! What do we have? Mini Monsters!
Why was that a thing in the 80s? Could nobody spell? I don't know. Did you know Mini Monsters featured Seth Green in one of his first voice acting roles? He was only 14 at the time of production, and he played Sherman, a human boy who goes to a sleepaway camp filled with monsters.
Hey guys, meet,
I'm Sherman.
Which was the plot of the show. Sherman and his sister Melissa go to summer camp, and it's filled with the kids of famous monsters. Naming the kids of the monsters did not get too deep. Frankenstein's kid was Frankie. Dracula's son was Dracky. The Wolfman's son was Ted. Just kidding, it was Wolfie. The Mummy's son was Mummo. The Invisible Man's kid was named Blanco, which was actually kind of original and at the very least, pretty clever. You got me with Blanco.
I'm Blanco.
good to see you.
The second installment in the comic strip, there was Street Frogs, which was about frogs who rap.
Frogs? That's the kind of number we need. That's slick. That's the way to make a little seed.
We could even cut a record. We can go on the road.
But how we gonna meet this Mr. Typhoon Tone?
Street Frogs has the distinction of being the first cartoon about hip-hop. Hip-hop, leaping, frogs, they hop, and then hip-hop is also music. Okay, I walked you there, but you got there. It was also the first cartoon to feature a female frog named Loretta, who is also called Honeylove, and the first to feature frogs doing the worm. I mean, as far as we know, we just can't imagine it existed before. This is not, however, the first time an animated frog was to wear a baseball hat. That honor goes to the Honey Smacks frog. And top hat goes to the Hello My Baby, that Bugs Bunny frog. The third cartoon in the comic strip was Karate Cat, who's a lean, mean karate machine.
I'm lean, I'm mean, a karate machine.
Karate Cat was a PI cat that also did karate. It's a pretty simple premise. It was honestly the most forgettable of the comic strip shows, except for two things. First, major executive realness going on with these lady cats.
Toss him and his goons out of here.
And second, best names. Boom Boom, Burmese, Dr. Catmandu, Catgut, Catatonic, and finally, getting back to what got us here in the first place was TigerSharks. Behind it all were show creators Arthur Rankin and Jules Bass, who created Rankin Bass in 1960 and quickly burst onto the scene with their first stop-motion animated special in 1964's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Ready, Rudolph?
Ready, Santa.
As their holiday specials became popular, they began testing the waters with animated television content in new genres like fantasy when they produced the 1977 strangely compelling but also childhood-ruining The Hobbit as an animated musical special.
My precious. Yes, yes.
Yep, it's garnered a cult following. Rankin and Bass even earned a Peabody Award for their efforts, which I thought was only for news and like Ira Glass and Dan Rather, but apparently you can get it for scaring kids. Soon the studio would hit it big in 1985 with the productions of Thundercats and Silverhawks. Though success faded very quickly, and the company shut down right as the production of comic strip was ending in 1987. TigerSharks was one of the last animated series Rankin Bass ever produced, which is a shame because it actually featured captivating storylines filled with formidable villains,
Spies! Spies!
fish humor,
What in the name of black and blue fish is going on here?
and talking blobs named Lump.
Let's see what those tiger sharks are made of.
Okay, I wasn't selling it very well, but the music was top-notch, the characters were strong, and it was truly a rollicking good time. But come on, let's hold again on TigerSharks for a dance break because this theme song slaps. Team, I mean, we may be in a golden age of television, but this whole trend where there aren't theme songs anymore, capital S, sucks. Where did we go wrong? That's where we went wrong. TigerSharks is a weird title considering nobody on this show is actually a tiger shark. The show takes place on a world primarily filled with water called Watero. Not Earth, which is also mostly water, but Watero. Pronunciation may be pretty fancy, but it's written out water, W-A-T-E-R-O. Whoever came up with naming on this show is a genius. The tiger sharks were humanoids who arrived on Watero for a research mission, but ended up being its protectors because a cartoon about mitochondria levels in water does not for a compelling TV show make. Unless you're on PBS and you're narrated by a British knight, then it's great.
The planet Watero, 90% ocean. Inhabitants can exist and breathe above or below the water.
Anyway, the eldest of the scientists, Walro, creates a special concoction that he keeps in a container called the fish tank. There's that originality again. When one jumps in, they become a fish-human hybrid. Walro, for example, becomes a walrus man serving Wilford Brimley realness.
Come on in, tiger sharks. The water's fine.
P.S. Did you know that when Cocoon came out in 1985, Wilford Brimley was 51 years old? That dude's been like permanently 76 since 1965, it's true. After Walro unveils the fish tank and transforms into a living walrus right before their eyes, the rest of the team is totally skeptical about radically transforming their DNA. Or not.
Here goes nothing.
Here goes nothing? What? He just turned into a walrus. At least you know it's reversible, right?
I assume you figured out a way back to our normal bodies?
You have, Walro, haven't you?
These guys really don't have much foresight. Anyway, the aforementioned Dolph turns into a dolphin.
Unbelievable. And me, I'm a dolphin.
Which, by the way, what if he turned into a jellyfish or a turtle? It would have really upended the naming convention narrative. Anyway, Dolph. Is that an Irish accent or a subpar Chekhov impression?
I think I'm going to get spacesick.
Who can tell? Can you? Let us know in the comments. Irish and Russian, really very close. Mako is the leader of the group. He turns into a Mako shark. You know he's the leader because he's a dude. He seems like he might coach football and has a Boy Scout vibe. Doesn't really have any other discernible traits. That was cartoon team leader territory in the 80s. There's Lorca, the orca, very good rhyme, who's constantly reminded that he's not a fish.
You're not a fish, you know.
Way to rub it in, buddy. Octavia, who becomes an octopus, and actually gets better hair after she transforms. Bronk, who's a seahorse. Angel the fish. And finally, their pet dog, Gup, who turns into a guppy, right?
Gup! Hey, Gup!
No, not a guppy. Gup is... I don't know what that thing is. It might be a Pokemon. The final member of the Tiger Sharks is the Sark, their ship, which provides the team with crucial information in moments of distress, but really is just there to give the audience exposition. By the way, the Tiger Sharks have great taste in 80s jams. Just listen to this rad track. We mentioned that TigerSharks was developed by the same company, Rankin as Thundercats and Silverhawks. If you compare all three sets of characters, you will see a lot of similarities. Each of the three teams has a strapping, uber-masculine leader. You got Mako, Lion-O, and Quicksilver. There's the older, wiser type, Walro or Jaga or Commander Stargazer, who was pissed off all the time and clearly smoked way too much.
I'm in charge here. If you're gonna tear anything apart, start with me.
Each of the three had the youngins. You had Rankin Angel, Wily Cat, Wily Kit, and Copper Kid. Also, they had Girl, which in the 80s is a type. Octavia, Chitara, Steelheart. FYI, these three were the most interesting characters. And then there's the third leading male, who's primarily defined by not being as butch as the other two leading men. Look, Tiger uses a whip, Bluegrass plays music, Dolph is...
Say, Mako, how's Lorca doing up there on Watero?
sorta Irish, or maybe Russian. Again, very hard to tell. Now, since TigerSharks was produced by Rankin Bass, they also shared a lot of talent with their other productions. In fact, Peter Lawrence wrote for TigerSharks while also writing many episodes of Thundercats and Silverhawks. Then there was voice actor Peter Newman, the voice of Mako, who also voiced Quicksilver on Silverhawks and Wily Cat on Thundercats. Voice actor Larry Kenney played Dolph and also played Lion-O in Thundercats and Bluegrass in Silverhawks. Also, he popped up in Red Dead Redemption 2 as JB Cripps, also known as that guy you only want to fist bump.
Pleased to meet you, partner. JB Cripps at your service.
And then there was actor Earl Hammond, who played Walro.
I'll be fried and filleted.
You might recognize him as Mumra from Thundercats and Monstar from Silverhawks. He also played Pope John Paul II in the audio tape version of Crossing the Threshold of Hope, which means that watching TigerSharks was a religious experience. And with action scenes like this, it was.
Had enough sharks for one day, TigerSharks?
Their main archenemy is T-Ray, a manta-ray human hybrid who seeks to conquer the planet, which are very high aims. Radical candor here, T-Ray. Start more realistically, like run for president of a small country. I don't know, something that feels attainable. Also, he had a ship that looked like a manta ray, which is super weird. That would be like if we made a spaceship that looked like a department store mannequin. You're just riding around in yourself. Ew. Think outside the box, T-Ray. He has several henchmen, like Captain Bizarrely, who lives up to the name because he's wearing Uggs and a captain's hat. I mean, it's weird, but the dude's got style. There's also Soulmate, who gets in on the fish puns.
If you ask me, there's something fishy going on here.
Dragonstein, and don't forget my personal favorite, Mr. Googly Eyes. The natives of Watarians, defend themselves against T-Ray and his thugs. And they're gonna need all the help they can get. After all, the Watarians put Gobi in charge.
I am known as Gobi.
Don't get me wrong, I like Gobi. But there's just no way a guy named Gobi is gonna defeat Godzilla Jr. over here, you know? You're gonna need a team that can fight, shoot, and windsurf? Yeah, sure, why not? Though whenever help was needed, the TigerSharks jumped into battle with some impressive action sequences where they always saved the day, and they did it with a smile and a well-crafted joke.
If we TigerSharks don't stick together, where would we be?
Out of our depth?
Even some of your own teammates groaned at you, Dolph. Are you Irish or Russian? It's too bad Rankin Bass Productions closed. Otherwise, we could have had many more episodes of TigerSharks and maybe, who knows, a Lump spin-off show.
I'll flatten them, Captain Bizarre, sir! I'll flatten them!
By the by, or maybe by the bay is more appropriate. Despite the show going under after a short run, a toy line was produced because in the 1980s, they made a toy line of everything. The toys were actually pretty cool. By rotating a character's arm, you could make them transform. And no, not just into a toy with a broken arm, into something. Which, it did get old after a while because you could only move one arm during play, but such is life. The TigerSharks haven't been on since the late 80s, save for one quick cameo in the 2011 rebooted Thundercats cartoon.
The stone was located inside a well-armed city. Our forces are working to retrieve it.
See? There's Mako.
Every species has its place, Leo.
And that was Monstar from Silverhawks. So who's your favorite Tiger Sharks character? Tell us why it's a lump in the comments. And also, tell us what you'd like us to cover next.
Good work, Tiger Sharks.